Hi everyone, welcome back to Difference Frames the World, a channel that offers a unique perspective on global events and how they shape the balance of power. We break down big international moves in straightforward language. I am Clara, and today we're diving into what could be one of the most consequential shifts in nuclear policy in decades: the announcement by Donald Trump that the United States is determined to restart nuclear weapons testing. It is not just another headline. It strikes at the very heart of global strategic stability, arms control norms, and the balance among major powers. So buckle up, because we're going to walk through what exactly was announced. What are the immediate motivations that appear to be? How are other countries reacting? What are the deeper strategic calculations behind this move? And what's at stake for global security and ordinary people, including you and me? Let's dive in. First, the announcement and what it says. Here's the basic setup. President Trump announced that he has ordered the U.S. military to restart nuclear weapons testing immediately after a 33-year pause. The last full explosive test the U.S. did was in 1992 in Nevada. But, and this is key, there's nuance. The U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright followed up, saying that no full-scale nuclear detonations are planned for now. Instead, the plan is to conduct what he calls system tests, or non-critical explosions of parts of nuclear weapons systems. On the one hand, we have a bold proclamation from the president regarding the renewal of nuclear test capability. On the other hand, we have a clarification from the head of the Energy Department that the first steps won't include full nuclear blasts. It is quite normal. The president has a big mouth, and his subordinates have to shut it up now and then so the world will not faint. Second, let us examine the timing. Why now? What are the motives behind the move? When something this dramatic happens, there are always multiple motives at play. Let's unpack some of them. Donald Trump wants to send a message to Russia and China, where his major headaches are. One clear trigger appears to be recent advances by Russia in new strategic weapons, for example, the so-called nuclear torpedo and a nuclear-powered cruise missile. The U.S. perceives it as a challenge to its deterrent. The logic is simple: if adversaries are moving ahead, the U.S. must show it remains capable. While Russia looms large, China is also squarely in the picture. The Trump announcement repeatedly flagged China as a rising nuclear actor, suggesting the U.S. doesn't want to be left behind. In fact, Chinese officials have explicitly rejected claims of secret testing and reaffirmed their no-first-use nuclear policy. The Make America Great Again president wants to reassure his allies, ease domestic political stress, and showcase his country's deterrence credibility. It isn't just about rivals. For U.S. allies and for domestic audiences, a strong posture plays well: we're back. We're serious. We have the muscle. However, for the U.S., the muscle is slack and the wrinkles fly. And the announcement itself shows America is worried about its declining power, and it is no longer confident that it can maintain its global hegemony with its existing military strength. Also, restarting nuclear tests is not only time-consuming in America's old facilities, but it also gives other nuclear powers to sharpen their teeth with new tests. In the long run, resumption of nuclear tests will only reduce America's military deterrence instead of strengthening it. Whether you agree or disagree with our points, please write down your ideas in the comments below about the reasons why or why not it is a stupid move for Donald Trump to restart the nuclear game. Now, let us continue to examine the dangers resulting from it. In a world where conventional military advantages are increasingly contested, nuclear weapons become the last stronghold of power projection for major states. The announcement also aligns with a broader U.S. push to modernize nuclear forces: new warheads, new delivery systems, more flexible and low-yield options. Testing is part of validating those changes and signaling intent that nuclear weapons are not just relics but active tools of policy. Now, let us see how others have reacted to America's nuclear test resumption. China's response was immediate and firm. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said China vehemently denied claims of secret nuclear tests, reaffirmed its commitment to peaceful development, reiterated its no-first-use policy, and said it remains committed to the moratorium on nuclear tests. In short, China's message is, we aren't doing what you say we are. We stand by restraint. You should too. As noted, the Energy Secretary pointed out that the planned tests are not detonations of nuclear devices, they are system tests. That's a significant distinction. While the rhetoric is strong, the immediate action may be more restrained than initially feared. Broader international concern. Although we'll need to watch for further official statements, analysts and treaty stalwarts are sounding alarms that a restart of U.S. testing, even if limited, could weaken norms, encourage others to follow, and risk triggering an arms race dynamic. For decades, the global norm has been, major nuclear powers do not conduct explosive tests. Even though the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, CTBT, hasn't entered into force because key states haven't ratified it, the de facto pause has been stabilizing, with few exceptions. If the U.S. restarts the test, even in a limited way, it chills that norm. Others may see it as a green light or justification to resume testing. That can trigger a spiral of you test, I test, and we all test. With increased talk of low-yield nuclear weapons, tactical nuclear options, or flexible use, the barrier between conventional war and nuclear war gets thinner. If testing validates new nuclear weapons designed for more usable roles, that would be a game changer. We're not just in a world of bombs and missiles from the Cold War. New tech like hypersonics, missile defense, stealth, and cyber all factor into the nuclear balance. By testing, the U.S. signals, we won't get out-innovated, we'll maintain a credible deterrent, we'll remain relevant. But that also means others will feel compelled to respond, thereby increasing global nuclear tension. For U.S. domestic politics, especially with an election horizon, this is a show of strength. For America's allies, especially those in Asia and NATO members, it says, we still have your back, we still project strength. But that strength might come at a cost, urging allies into deeper entanglement in nuclear logic, eroding arms control norms, and raising the danger for everyone. What happens next? Here are some scenarios and risks, and let's imagine what might play out over the coming months and years. Scenario A: limited and careful testing, no detonations. It is very possible, and the likelihood is indeed high. The U.S. could proceed with system tests, weapon system readiness checks, and component testing, all without a full underground detonation. It would allow the U.S. to claim, we are back in the game, while avoiding immediate treaty blowback. Scenario B: full-scale test eventually. If the U.S. decides to detonate again, say in 1 to 3 years, that would be a full break from the moratorium. That would likely trigger a strong reaction from Russia and China, possibly other nuclear states like India, Britain, France, and even North Korea. Pandora's box opens. Scenario C: arms control negotiations leveraged. Another possibility is to use the announcement as leverage. The U.S. signals we're willing to test, thereby putting pressure on China, Russia to come to the table for new arms control talks on U.S. terms. If successful, this could forestall testing. If not, arms race risk grows. Worst-case scenario: spiral of testing and escalation. If Russia or China, or both of them, respond with their own tests, and smaller nuclear states feel pressure to test or expand arsenals, the result could be a new era of nuclear competition. Higher numbers, modern weapons, and more deployment. The result is fatal: greater risk of miscalculation, accidents, and conflict escalation. Beyond geopolitical risk lies the human cost. Test sites, environments around them, and indigenous communities nearby have historically borne heavy burdens. Resuming testing, even underground, means we may be reopening wounds. There may be more Bikini Islands worldwide. One may ask why it matters for you and me, and the rest of the world. Well, here are some reasons. Number 1 is security and risk. The more nuclear weapons and the more tests, the greater the chance of something going wrong, technical mishaps, misread signals, accidental launches, and so on. The U.S. claims it has enough nuclear power to ruin the whole world, and Russia is also confident that it is capable of doing that, as it possesses more warheads than the United States. China, India, France, Britain and other small nuclear powers are not that cocky, but they are waiting and trying to find an opportunity to remove the guy who creates problems. It is a nightmare for the world. If we lose restraint, the global order is less stable. That affects trade, alliances, and diplomacy, and ultimately, ordinary people, like you and me, bear the bitter fruits. Past nuclear tests have caused radiation exposure, health issues, and environmental damage. Renewing tests risks repeating that. And even worse is that what we do today sets precedents. If testing becomes normal again, arms races become locked in. The legacy we leave matters. President Trump's move to restart nuclear testing is both bold and risky. It is a statement of power, a nod to modernization, a challenge to rivals, but it is also a potential break in norms that have underpinned global stability for decades. The initial clarifications from the energy guy provide some breathing room, but the underlying dynamics are shifting. It may become a brief chapter, a signal, a negotiation tactic, and then a return to restraint. But it's equally possible that it opens a door to renewed nuclear competition. Given the stakes, the question isn't just will the US test again, but will the world respond with restraint or slide into escalation? On a personal level, these decisions, made in faraway, idiotic heads, may seem remote, but their effects can ripple globally. The more nuclear weapons there are, the greater the risk for all of us. Thank you for tuning into Difference Frames the World and staying with Clara. Please subscribe, share with someone who cares about world affairs, and we'll see you tomorrow when we unpack the next big shift. In the end, we extend our greatest appreciation to the viewers who support DFTW via Super Thanks, Patreon, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you very much.